Imagine walking down the street. It's just a normal Tuesday. You're grabbing a coffee.
Right, just a regular day.
Yeah. And suddenly you spot your best friend. And this is someone you know for an absolute fact owns a beautiful, fully furnished home. Like you've been to their house. You know their pantry is totally stocked.
Oh, yeah.
But right now they are sitting on the dirty curb wearing ratty clothes and they're begging strangers walking by for 50 cents.
Wow. That's quite a visual.
Right. It makes absolutely no sense. It's completely jarring.
Yeah.
But here's the uncomfortable truth we are tackling today in this deep dive. That is exactly how you look when you approach your own life and your grandest ambitions while you're trapped in a poverty mindset.
Yeah, that really puts it in perspective.
I mean, you are sitting on the curb of your own potential, basically begging for pocket change when you actually have an entire estate waiting for you.
It is a completely absurd visual,
Oh,
but, it captures the tragedy of survival mode perfectly.
it really does.
Because we shrink ourselves down to the size of our immediate panic. And today's mission is highly practical.
Let's get into it.
We are dissecting the exact mechanics of how to transition out of those frantic day-to-day survival habits and step fully into a concrete plan for faithful stewardship.
Which is huge.
Exactly, because before you can steward massive success or wealth or influence, you have to realize that you're currently begging for 50 cents.
Well, wait, let's unpack this idea of the 50-cent prayer because it hits so close to home for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Think about what 50 cents even buys today. Like nothing.
Literally nothing.
You can't even get a single pack of ramen noodles with that. Yet mathematically, that is what we do when we ask the universe or God or however you frame the ultimate provider for just enough to scrape by.
Right. Just the absolute bare minimum.
Yeah. You're approaching a trillionaire entity, someone with this infinite inheritance waiting for you. And you're basically saying, hey, can I just get a part-time job making $15 an hour so I don't get evicted this month?
It sounds humble, but it's actually incredibly arrogant.
Arrogant. Okay, wait. I have to play devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
Because I know what you're thinking right now, listening to this, because I thought the exact same thing. Isn't it considered deeply practical and even virtuous to just ask for exactly what you need to get by?
I mean, that's what we're taught, right?
Exactly. If I'm struggling, asking for the bare minimum to cover rent feels responsible. How on earth is modesty toxic?
Because it completely ignores the reality of who you are and what you were built for. True humility is not about, shrinking your desires to fit your current dysfunction.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Look, if you saw that friend begging for 50 cents, knowing they have a fully stocked fridge at home, you wouldn't think, wow, so humble.
Definitely not.
Right. Your immediate instinctual thought would be, they are in deep trouble. They're hiding a secret toxic habit.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, asking for 50 cents signals that you are up to no good. It signals that you are purely in survival mode, just trying to feed an immediate short-term fix, and you're completely disconnected from your actual worth.
That is a massive paradigm shift. You're saying the modesty is fake. It's basically a cover for dysfunction.
Exactly. I mean, you are called to fund generations. You are meant to be a steward of massive resources, to fund other people's dreams, to build things that outlast you.
So thinking small is actually kind of selfish?
It really is. When you ask for just enough to survive until tomorrow, you are effectively telling the universe that its grand plans for you aren't worth the effort.
Man.
You are choosing to eat scraps over the banquet that has already been prepared, simply because the scraps require less responsibility.
Wow. Okay, so if we accept that this 50-cent mindset is actually self-sabotage, it forces us to look at the struggles in our lives through a completely different lens.
Oh, 100%.
Let's talk about those moments when it feels like we are doing everything we can, praying for a break, begging for resources, and all we get is just silence. The doors stay closed.
Which brings up some of the most uncomfortable, hyper-specific examples of bad stewardship.
You really are uncomfortable.
Because it is so easy to blame the closed doors on bad luck or a harsh universe, while we completely ignore our own daily choices.
Oh, the examples from the source material are brutal. We are talking about ordering DoorDash to be delivered to your office because you didn't feel like meal prepping and then crying about being broke.
We've all been there.
Right. Or taking an Uber for a 20-minute walk because it was slightly drizzling and blowing your gas money for the entire week.
Yep.
Paying for 3 different streaming services, buying a new outfit for the weekend, picking up expensive perfumes, while simultaneously ignoring the final notice from the electric company.
It's those tiny choices.
Yeah, we put ourselves in these high-stress survival situations through 1,000 tiny, unmanaged decisions.
And that leads to the crucial mechanism of what we need to understand about unanswered pleas for help. It's the concept of tough love.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Well, if you are currently sitting in the dark because your power was cut, or you are living out of your car, or your stomach is rumbling, you have to understand that it isn't because you have been abandoned.
It feels like abandonment, though.
It does, but it's because true love does not enable toxic behavior.
Wait, I want to challenge that a little bit. If someone is genuinely hungry and we say the provider is actively choosing not to help them, doesn't that just sound kind of cruel?
It feels cruel in the moment, for sure. But let's look at the psychology of enabling.
Okay.
If you keep spending your grocery money on takeout and entertainment, and then someone magically drops a bag of groceries on your porch every time you run out of food, what happens?
You never learn your lesson.
Exactly. You never change, you never learn to budget, you never learn discipline. Saving you from the consequences of your own actions would actually make the provider just as toxic as you are.
So, what does this all mean? It's like a parent refusing to do their kid's homework.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, like the kid is sitting there at the kitchen table at 10 p.m., crying over a math worksheet, thinking the parent is a heartless monster.
Yep, the absolute worst.
But the parent knows that stepping in and saving them actually robs them of the ability to learn the material. If the parent does the work, the kid fails the actual exam the next day anyway.
Exactly.
The parent's no is an abandonment. It's a profound form of protection.
That is a perfect parallel. The no is protection. In fact, imagine the provider intentionally rerouting the coworker who was going to share their lunch with you today.
Like actively keeping the help away.
Yes. They actively block the help, so you are forced to sit there, smell the food they brought from home, feel the hunger pangs, and finally, viscerally understand the lesson. You have to feel the friction to change the trajectory.
Man, that's heavy. But if the quick fix rescue is intentionally being denied to protect us from our own bad habits, how do we actually get the resources we desperately need?
Right, because you can't just starve.
Yeah, we can't just sit in the dark forever learning a lesson. How do we turn the power back on?
The operating rule here is incredibly simple, but it's brutal to execute.
Yeah.
The source says, if you keep going back, you will lack.
If you keep going back, you will lack.
Yes. The root cause of the empty bank account, the empty pantry, or the empty relationships is that you keep returning to what drains you.
Oh, like going back to the comfort zone.
Precisely. Returning to old, destructive habits because they're familiar. Going back to toxic friendships that you already know pull you into bad decisions.
Right.
Think about someone who just survived a massive, stress-induced health scare. Let's say they have a mild heart attack.
Oh, okay.
They are in the hospital, terrified, vowing to completely overhaul their life. But the second they are discharged and feel a little bit better, what do?
They go grab a burger.
Exactly. They go right back to eating the exact same artery-clogging fast food and hanging out with the exact same deeply stressful people who put them in the cardiac ward in the first place.
It's wild how we do that.
It is. You are actively engineering your own lack by returning to the very things that nearly destroyed you.
It's basically the psychological equivalent of touching a hot stove, getting burned, and then doing it again the next day because your hand got cold.
Yes, exactly that.
So if going backward equals lack, what does forward motion look like? How do we actually trigger the provision we are looking for?
Well, provision is not a passive event. It is an action word. The fundamental principle from the source is, as you do, I provide.
As you do, I provide. I like that.
Notice the order of operations there. The resources, the money, the right connections, they are already fully funded and waiting for you, but they are located on the other side of a closed door.
Okay, so you have to move first.
Yes, you do not get to see the money first and then decide if you feel motivated enough to move. You have to take the physical step, walk through the door, and then the provision reveals itself.
It's like walking down a dark hallway with a motion sensor light.
Oh, that's good.
You want the light to turn on before you take a step so you know it's safe. But the sensor is like 10 feet down the hall.
Yeah.
You have to take those first few steps in total darkness to trigger the illumination.
That's exactly how it works. You have to trigger the sensor.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. And I know this is the exact spot where a lot of people get stuck. If provision requires us to step forward into the dark hallway first, how do we know which door to walk through?
That is the big question.
When you are in full survival mode, practically flying blind, panicked about how to pay the rent by Friday, every single door looks identical. Or worse, they all look deadbolted.
Yeah, it's overwhelming.
So how do we know where to step?
That is the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And the answer is going to frustrate a lot of people who are looking for a magical, mystical portal.
Oh.
The door you are supposed to walk through is whatever mundane, practical learning phase is sitting directly in front of your face right now.
Really? Just the boring stuff in front of us.
It's exactly. This is the core concept of enrolling in Stewardship University.
Stewardship University. I love this concept. Let's really dig into the billionaire father analogy, because this takes everything we've talked about and grounds it in a way that makes so much sense.
It really is a brilliant analogy.
Imagine a wildly wealthy father, a multi-billionaire. He has a child, and he has set up an ironclad massive trust fund for them.
Okay.
But there's a catch. The father mandates that his child must graduate from a highly rigorous college, let's say Harvard, before they can access a single penny of that money.
And we have to look closely at the nuance of why a billionaire would demand that.
Right, because they don't need the money from a job.
Exactly. The child does not need that college degree for the actual money.
Yeah.
They don't need a piece of paper to get a corporate job to survive.
Yeah.
The family already owns the hotels, the real estate, the private equity firms. From a purely financial standpoint, the degree is completely irrelevant to their net worth.
So why put the kid through 4 years of brutal exams, all-nighters, and stress? If I'm the kid, I'm thinking, Dad, just give me the check. We both know I don't need to pass Economics 101 to be rich.
Because the father knows that if you hand millions of dollars to someone who hasn't developed an internal structure of discipline, that money will destroy them.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
He requires the degree so the child learns how to stick to something incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
He wants them to learn how to show up on time, how to study, how to take meticulous notes, and how to delay gratification.
It's training.
Yes. He wants them to network with other driven, high-performing people. Most importantly, he is using the university to build a container inside his child that is strong enough to hold the wealth without blowing it and ending up a tragic headline.
Wow.
The requirement isn't about the diploma. It's about forcing the transformation of the student.
Which brings us right back to you listening to this right now. Whatever frustrating, deeply unglamorous task is sitting in front of you, that is your prerequisite course.
Yeah.
There's this fantastic story from the source about someone having to take a basic entry-level college writing class. English 111 3 different times.
3 times.
Yeah. They failed it twice. They got an F, then a D, purely because they thought they were above it and weren't taking it seriously.
Oh, classic 50-cent mindset.
Right. But finally, they had this exact realization. They decided to steward the opportunity.
Love that.
They started studying, utilizing campus resources, taking diligent notes, and they ended up getting an A on every single paper. That mundane, annoying English 111 class was the prerequisite course for their inheritance.
What is so brilliant about this framework is how it radically alters your daily reality.
It really does.
It takes your everyday struggles, the boring spreadsheet at work, the annoying client, the budget you hate balancing, and completely transforms them.
It gives them purpose.
Yes. It changes them from meaningless, unfair suffering into a highly curated, deeply personalized curriculum designed to stretch your capacity. It means your current struggle isn't a punishment from the universe. It is a customized classroom.
I have to admit, my initial reaction to this concept was a bit cynical.
Oh, really? How so?
I thought, doesn't calling it Stewardship University just romanticize suffering? Isn't it just a convenient excuse for why life is so unfairly difficult?
It's a fair critique, but it fundamentally misunderstands the mechanism.
Yes.
It doesn't romanticize the suffering, it metabolizes it.
Metabolizes it. Okay, explain that.
Romanticizing suffering means you stay in the pain because you think the pain itself makes you holy or noble. That's the 50-cent mindset again.
Right.
Stewardship University says this pain has a purpose. Learn the lesson as fast as possible so you can graduate and move out of the pain. You aren't supposed to stay in English 111 forever. You're supposed to pass it.
That is a phenomenal distinction. Okay, so if we are currently enrolled and we want to graduate, let's build out the actual transition plan.
Let's do it.
Because now that we understand the curriculum, it's time to finalize the concrete execution steps to pass these courses and transition out of survival mode for good. How do we pass?
The execution plan is surprisingly low-tech and straightforward. You don't need an expensive masterclass.
Good, because we're broke in survival mode.
Exactly. You literally go to the Dollar Tree, buy a cheap pen and a notebook, and start taking notes on your life.
I love that it's the Dollar Tree. It removes all the excuses. You don't need a $40 leather-bound journal to start changing your life.
Not at all. The point is the physical act of documentation. You have to stop passively consuming your life, just letting events and content wash over you while you try to survive the day.
Right, you have to engage.
If you are enrolled in a course, you have to act like a student. You need to actively study your patterns, write down your budget, track your habits, and take the material seriously.
And there is a really important freeing caveat here. Passing the course does not mean you have to be flawless.
Definitely not.
You don't necessarily have to get an A+ in everything you do. You don't have to perfectly execute a new morning routine on day one. But you absolutely cannot do the bare minimum anymore.
No more D-minuses.
Exactly. You can't just scrape by. You have to put in genuine effort, do enough to master the core lessons so you can finally move on to the next one.
But, and this is a massive but, you will never pass your current classes if you are constantly staring at your past transcripts.
Ooh, that's a great point.
Building this transition plan requires confronting the emotional roadblocks head-on. The psychological weight of survival mode is heavy. You must intentionally release the past fear, the shame, and the guilt about your previous financial or life mistakes.
Let's talk about the mechanics of that shame. Because shame isn't just a bad feeling, it's a physiological trap.
It really is.
If you are carrying the deep embarrassment of having your lights cut off or having a car repossessed or maxing out credit cards, your brain is constantly trapped in a fight or flight state.
Yeah, you're just panicked all the time.
Right. You literally cannot access the executive functioning required to plan for the future when you are drowning in the shame of the past.
That is precisely why you have to verbally, consciously release it. Holding on to that guilt is the exact mechanism that keeps you trapped in the 50-cent mindset.
It keeps you staring at the curb.
Exactly. It keeps your head down, looking at the curb instead of looking up at the door you need to walk through. You have to forgive yourself for the survival tactics you used when you didn't know any better, so you can free up the cognitive energy to actually steward what is coming next.
Okay, let's bring this right to your doorstep. If you look at your life today, right in this exact moment, what is the course you've been doing the bare minimum in?
That's the real question.
Is it your physical health, your budget, your current job? And what would it actually look like for you to wake up tomorrow morning, grab a pen, and start seriously studying for it?
It's the only question that matters right now. And just to pull all these threads together from today.
Yeah, give us the summary.
We started by dismantling the illusion of the 50-cent prayer, recognizing that asking for the bare minimum isn't humility. It's a symptom of a poverty mindset that hides our dysfunction. We reframed the pain of tough love, realizing that a harsh no is often the exact protection we need from our own enabling habits.
So true.
We unlocked the secret of provision, that it requires our physical forward motion into the dark before the light turns on. And finally, we've enrolled in Stewardship University, accepting that our current frustrating reality is the precise curriculum designed to expand our capacity for massive abundance.